Hi, I'm Dixie Rolette Jeffrey, and usually I talk to you about mental health stuff. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about some fun facts, some things that I've learned over the last several months that have renewed my appreciation for life and just kind of filled me with wonder. So I want to share those with you. Hope that they do the same thing for you. The first one I want to point out is the different levels that we learn. And I was thinking about this because a lot of times we're aware of something. We might know it's there or whatever, but it's just an awareness. And then, we may know something like I think about all the things you learn in school or even, programs that we do at work. You know something. And then there's a point where you kind of understand. It becomes a little bit deeper. And when I started thinking about this, I was just fascinated. Like I'd never thought about it before that, these different levels before we actually get something. But anyway, so you're aware of it, you know it, then you really start to understand it. And then there's this other step. And I feel like this is where I've been for the last several months is realizing. And when, to me, what realizing means is like it becomes alive, it becomes real and living inside of you. And thinking about kind of how those things take place, I was thinking about our different learning styles. We have people who are visual and auditory, and then people who are kinesthetic, who, touching and feeling is how they learn. And when I was thinking about how these different levels play out, I realized that when you realize something, it's really because you've experienced it. It has become real to you. It's not just something you know, it's just not something that you're aware of. It's not even something you understand. It's something that now becomes real. And I don't know what the best way is to communicate that to people, like to share something that's become real to you, because unless it's real to them, it's not going to be the same level. So I think with a lot of these things that I talk about mental health and things like that, it's because it's so real to me. Sometimes I wonder, like, is it real to anyone else? Maybe it's just real to me. But I just thought that was fascinating. You may start to look. I've been kind of watching and seeing things that kind of asking myself, what level is that on? Do I know that? Do I understand that? Or is it real to me? Just various things, that come across my path in life. Um, Another thing that I thought was just fascinating that was really kind of like an aha and another awe moment was when I was taking a CPR class at work, and the instructor was going through and talking about the difference between heart attack and cardiac arrest and all these different kinds of things. The whole point is help somebody if if their heart stops beating. But he made a statement that just, really impacted me. And I think, again, I kind of have some real life experiences to this, but he said that 50% of cardiac arrests that happen, and I can't remember the number, it was like 350 million or some huge number of people have cardiac arrest where their heart just stops. And when he said 50% of those people, there's no known reason. Doctors can't figure out why. Nobody knows why. Their heart just stopped beating. And, we're able to get them back to life if we do CPR and those kind of things. But a lot of people die because, their heart just stops. And I was just fascinated by that because I thought, oh my gosh, how many times do I take for granted the fact that my heart is beating? I'm not doing anything to make it beat, and there's nothing I could do to make it keep beating. We can do CPR, we can, put fake hearts and those kind of things in, but I thought it was just fascinating, and it helped me appreciate life a little bit more. I realized this. I had a brother-in-law that passed away, and his heart stopped, and, he's young, 35 years old. It was just an amazing realization for me to help me to be grateful that my heart is beating, that it beats on purpose. That if it wasn't meant to keep beating, it would just stop. So kind of crazy. Another thing, and I kind of got more realization of this yesterday. I was listening to a talk and was just fascinated by the fact that they were saying, we're all addicts. We are all addicted to something. And, at first I was like, no, we're not. And, kind of went through. But then as I listened to the talk, I realized it really is true that we are addicted to different things. And really an addiction is kind of a pattern that we stay in. we think of it a lot with alcohol and drugs, but really, like for me, I think of addictions in my life was probably something more like sadness or rejection. Those were my go-to things. If anything happened in life, that's how I felt. And so one of the things that was just kind of eye-opening, that was, fascinating to me, was that we can exchange our addictions. So rather than being addicted to sadness and rejection, I can choose to be addicted to, and it's a choice. It's something that you have to do. It's not like it just, make a decision and poof, it happens. But I can make a decision to be addicted to love and joy and happiness, and I can exchange those. And one of the things they talked about was that when we exchange an addiction, exchange a habit, it's much more likely to stick than if we just say, stop doing that, stop drinking coffee or whatever. And it kind of all came to life for me several months ago. My sister-in-law came to visit, and we were talking about just different things you can do for your health, your physical health. And we were talking about drinking coffee in the morning, and she said she exchanged coffee for this detox tea that she drinks every day. So she still gets the warm drink and all those kind of things, but it was just an exchange. And I realized that's so much easier than just stop drinking coffee. Because if you stop, then you feel like you're being deprived or whatever it is. The other thing that I thought was fascinating with that was the fact that just like addicts, like my brother made the statement during that talk that how often does an alcoholic go for a drink? As often as they need that feeling or whatever it is that, that addiction comes up. And I realized when he made that statement, we can supplement, we can exchange things for all those addictions that we have. So for me, it was like, when I'm feeling sad or when I'm doing those things, I start plugging in the positive things, and I knew this was a practice, and so I've been doing this better. But when he said that yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I can literally take the things I've learned, the asking myself questions, the challenging my thinking, interrupting my thinking, all these different things, even appreciation. I can take them and plug them in anytime, 50 times a day if I want to. So anyway, it was just really freeing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I see that addiction. I see that in myself. And to be able to make an exchange rather than just say, hey, stop doing that, and do it as often as I need to. So I thought that was really cool. Another thing I thought was fascinating is how little we know about our lungs, how little we know about how they work. And I was at a conference, and they were talking about how our lungs work. And he says, do you know your brain and your heart and pretty much everything in you runs on oxygen? And we all say, yeah, we know that. Well, then how do your lungs work? Who knows how your lungs work? And nobody really knew. We were all like, it does something. And I thought it was just fascinating. So during that conference, he talked about taking deep breaths, and he explained kind of how our lungs work, how they're like these empty bags, and our diaphragm expands, and then those bags fill up with air. And while that air is in our lungs, then we have these little things that take the oxygen out and exchange it, and put the air, the air that was there that doesn't have oxygen anymore, and it makes that exchange. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's fascinating. So he was talking about allowing your diaphragm to open, and when you do that, it actually pushes your stomach out. And he showed us over and over again how, most people suck their stomachs in. And anyway, so I was just fascinated again by the fact that our lungs breathe in the air that we need. We use it for what we need to, and then we expel what we don't need. And, I was just encouraged to make sure I'm giving my body what it needs, that I'm taking in as much oxygen as my body needs to use, for my brain and my heart and all those different kinds of things. But just knowing how it worked was fascinating to me, and it encouraged me to actually do it. I always want to know why. If somebody asks me to take a deep breath, or even at work all the time, it's kind of a pain, but I always want to know why. If you're asking me to do something, help me understand. So understanding how my lungs worked and taking those deep breaths, it was just, I thought it was fascinating. Another thing, and that kind of goes along with this, was the realization that we are designed, almost every aspect of us is designed to take things in, use them, and then expel them. So, kind of the obvious one is our digestive system. We eat food, and our body takes what it needs from it, and then we get rid of it. But everything in our body is designed like that. our air that we breathe. We breathe in oxygen, our body takes what it needs, and then we breathe out. Our blood system, our blood absorbs the oxygen and takes it to where it needs to go, and then it brings back, the empty blood cells, and it kind of recycles. So when I learned that, I was like, that's fascinating. I think that's really interesting and kind of amazing how we're designed. But then I started applying that to our mental health, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, it's exactly the same thing. We are intended to bring stuff in, use it for our good, and then let it go. It's not something that, all of the diseases, all the malfunctions that happen are when things are not allowed to flow like they're intended to. If we can't breathe out oxygen, or breathe in oxygen and expose, get rid of the bad air, that system doesn't work, and we can die if our body, if our blood system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. All those different kinds of things. And I realized our mental capacities are the same way. If we hold on to things, it's kind of like our blood, it being all clumped together, and it's not able to function and travel and do the things it needs to do. And so I was just really encouraged that, the stuff that comes in has a value and a purpose, and we need to take it in and use it and understand it and learn it and make it even real and living inside of us. But then we need to let it go. We don't need to hold on to the stuff that's not necessary anymore. And so anyway, I just wanted to share those facts with you. I thought they were fascinating, and like I said, just really helped me to renew my awe and my gratitude for life. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have an awesome day.